is here. Good morning, class. Good morning. How are we on this great Monday morning for Halloween? A little tired? Bootastic. Nice. I'll tell you. Okay, class. I need everyone's attention up front. Today on our agenda, I need everyone's eyes. We are going to be looking through a PowerPoint. We're going to be learning about yeast bread and how it works. As you can see, I am wearing a fancy necklace. We are going to be watching, it's kind of an observation for me on how I'm teaching and how you guys are during my class. So, I have this on because it is kind of my view of what I see when I am teaching you guys.
It's a camera?
It's a camera.
It's not really a camera.
Yes, so with that said, remember our procedures and everything that we have during class, that you guys are professional and you guys are courteous students. During our PowerPoint, there are going to be times that you guys get to talk with your neighbor, either your facing partner or your shoulder partner. And remember my expectations when we kind of bring it back as a group and we're listening to our other classmates. Okay? I am going to be walking about the room like I usually do and answering questions during the middle of the PowerPoint. What I really want you guys to understand is how bread works, the backing of it, the science of it, and the biggest part is yeast bread. I do want you guys to, so either, there's two different ways. You can either write on a piece of paper, or what we've used in the past is our online version of PowerPoint, the note-taking. I know in the past it was kind of hard to get to. If you are going to use a phone to take your notes, you can only take about 5 at a time, and then you have to post it, and you have to post a second series. So I would suggest just for today, why don't we just do hand notes? So with a piece of paper, pen, pencil, I want you to make sure that you have your name, the class period, and then the title for our PowerPoint. So pull out a piece of paper this time. Please give you a moment. And once you guys are done, I need your faces this way so I know that you're ready to go. So I'll give you 1 minute. Let's quickly get our piece of paper out, share with a friend if we need to. Not at this time. In a little bit, yes. Okay. So I need everyone's faces painted forward, looking forward. And I need your undivided attention when we start our PowerPoint. Remember our procedure when we're watching a PowerPoint? I will have times of interaction that you will be talking to your partners. So at this time, I am going to ask you a question to start off with. When you think of bread, and I want you guys to, your face partner, the person in front of you, I want you to tell that person your first memory of bread. I'm going to give you 1 minute. So at this time, you can be talking to your person right in front of you. First thing that pops in your head. What kinds of bread? Maybe a recipe that involves bread? The texture? Okay, bring it back. So after I bring it back, I want you, as a class, if I call on a table, I want one person from that table to represent the table. So 1 more minute. Let's agree on a first memory. It's fine.
Butter and jelly.
So one thing as a table that you guys can kind of agree on.
That we really like? Or?
Uh-huh.
Dude, like, only if it make the part go.
You would what? Share. Okay. Would you like me to pick on you first? Okay.
Okay, well, why does that be part? I'd rather have
Okay, bring it on back. I'm going to call on one person from your table. And please tell me what your guys' first memory of bread is. London.
Peanut butter or just like sandwiches in general, I guess.
Sandwiches. My family, we used to call them Sammys. We're making a Sammy. You like that? Okay. Drew, your guys' table.
Well, growing up as a kid, I call it circle toast, but English muffins, like my mom used to always make me
Circle toast.
yeah, and she would like put peanut butter on one and butter on the other.
Another thing you can make with circle toast is, my family, we like doing individual pizzas on English muffins. We will do that in our class.
bagel pizzas.
Or bagel pizzas. You can do the same thing.
Yeah, they're basically the same concept.
It's good. Okay, I'm going to call on one more table. Just leave it back there, guys. Just in the corner. Thank you. Okay, I'll wait. I'm going to ask them another group, and then we're going to start our presentation. Do you guys want to go? I'll do 2 more. Go ahead, Julie.
French bread is like
French bread? Just by itself, or do you do oil with a little balsamic or butter?
sandwiches, like
Sandwiches? Okay. Like sub sandwiches?
yeah,
Okay.
and peanut butter jelly.
On a French roll? I don't know. I've done it with sourdough. Uh-huh. Okay, last group. Everyone, let's listen to our group, please. Go ahead, Alex.
First memory of bread?
First memory of bread.
I don't know. When I was little, all I would eat is bread
All you would eat is bread?
because I was degraded.
Did you put anything on your bread? Like, did you do peanut butter and jelly, or, but, did you like butter bread? Okay. Are you being serious? Okay. Okay, so we are going to get back to our PowerPoint. Remember our procedures. I'm going to start the PowerPoint now. So now that you guys have your first memories of bread, now we're going to learn how bread is made. The science of it, how it's mixed together, and what you need to know to make bread at home. It's really easy. So So at this time, make sure that our lips are turned off, our eyes are forward. Okay?
Wait, it's kind of like one of those How It's Made episodes.
How it's made, but it's like in person, yes. Okay. What part does each play in making bread? Gluten is one of those words that we hear this day and age all the time. Gluten provides dough with elasticity and the strength to make the bread. Basically, it combines the bread so it stays together. Important parts. So any comments that you have, you don't have to write everything down. I want at least 10 comments, or if you have a question for me, that's awesome. 10 things. If you put more, that's great too. Yeast. So yeast is our biggest topic that we're going to talk about today. Yeast makes dough rise, give its porous texture. Porous means it gives it those like air pockets. You know when you cut into a baguette, a French roll or a sourdough roll, kind of has those little air pockets? That's what porous means. Similar to like a sponge. Sponges have little porous pockets. And when you cut the bread thick enough, that's where, if you were to dip it into oil, or if you put butter, spread butter on it, that's where your butter's going to stay. Okay. I'm going to define yeast. Yeast can come in two different forms. Hydrated, where it comes like in a container or a little package. Or you have dehydrated, which basically means that yeast is dried and put into like little seeds or little pellets. What we'll use in this class is dehydrated. And what we have to do is add water to the yeast so it basically wakes it up. Most of us in the morning, you have to wash your face or take a shower to wake yourselves up. That's what we're doing to the yeast. We're waking it up. So dehydrated, what they do to make those packets is they remove the water so it's not active, pretty much. Aaron?
Wait, you just said to wake it up, but doesn't sugar activate yeast?
Yes, that's going to be on the next slide. Awesome job. Okay. So the next part, to activate yeast, you have to have a certain temperature of water. It has to be just right. It can't be too hot and it can't be too cold. And probably not tomorrow. I don't have you guys tomorrow. On Wednesday, I'm going to kind of have an experiment like this. And I'm going to bring in some water bottles that you can see if your water's too hot or if it's too cold. It's not going to basically blow up the balloon with the yeast. But if you have the temperature just right, basically what happens is the water, sugar, and the yeast create what is called carbon dioxide. And it creates little bubbles. You have to have the perfect temperature with either dry or yeast to make that kind of chemical reaction. So, how your yeast grows, and Aaron, before even seeing this PowerPoint, he knew that sugar is a big factor for that yeast to grow. So when you're making bread, you need moisture, either milk or water. It has to be warm, so it has to be like bath water, about 100-ish degrees, about 110. And then your yeast needs food. In food, you can use sugar. My personal preference when I'm making bread, I use honey. It gives it a different flavor, kind of almost like a smoky flavor. and it has minerals and nutrients in it versus just plain sugar. So, there's two different factors that can affect our yeast. Sugar, it grows. Salt, it prevents the growth. So if you think about if you've ever made jerky, what is one of the main ingredients that you would use would be salt. You're curing it and you're stopping any type of bacterial growth. And that sugar, it's creating like a healthy bacteria. Okay. So, when we make bread, there are 4 steps. These are really important. And part of the process of making bread, you have to have all 4 of these steps to make bread. As a class, you guys are doing an awesome job at taking notes. After this slide, I'm going to have you guys talk about what you've learned. 1, the first step is mixing that yeast, water, and sugar. And what type of temperature do we have to have for that water? Anyone? Warm. Warm water or liquid. Second step, after you mix everything together, you're going to start kneading your dough. And the process for kneading is that you put a little bit of flour down on your surface. And I meet with you guys Wednesday and Thursday. So Thursday, we are going to be playing with some dough on Thursday. You guys are going to learn how to knead and how dough really works and how it feels. So when you're kneading your dough, you're going to be pulling that dough and mixing it from the sides and then over. It's kind of like a full workout, about 5-10 minutes that you're going to be kneading the dough. The second part of 2 is you're going to let that bread rise. Have you ever had homemade bread before that's like so compact? And my memories of that is my grandma, she has a gluten allergy, and so she would always make it without the gluten, and so she'd always make like flatbreads or pita bread that didn't have that yeast that basically makes the bread rise. So we're shaping for number 3 and letting it rise again. When you go to the grocery store, you see so many different variations of bread. There's sliced bread. There's loaves of bread. There's this fancy word called artistry. And pretty much it means that you're adding extra ingredients to the bread. One of my personal favorites is when they add garlic cloves and Italian seasonings. Oh, it is just perfect with a little bit of olive oil, maybe a little bit of balsamic. It's my personal favorite. And then the last part, after you let your bread rise again, is you're going to bake it. Okay? So for the next couple minutes, I want as a table, either you can talk to the person in front of you or the side, and I want you guys to talk about one key thing that as a table you guys have learned so far during our PowerPoint. And then we'll kind of go around and let me know. Yeast is a bacteria, but it's a healthy bacteria. It's used with bread making and if you're making different types of beverages too.
My mom doesn't like to buy bread. She makes it for us.
And do you love it? Your homemade? The homemade kind? You don't really eat it? When you do? What was one thing that you guys...
Water needs to be like a certain temperature for it to work.
It's that chemical part of the yeast that it has to wake it up.
Yeah, but what I mean by give heat to it is like roast it, like.
Okay, I'm going to give you 30 more seconds. I want you to pick a representative from each of the tables, and I'll pick up tables.
That's you. You don't tell her.
You don't cook it or cut it or anything. Like if you're making a
Bring it on back. Bring it on back, guys. So when I call on a table, I want the rest of the group to make sure that we're listening and we're not talking. I'm going to call on one person in the group and whoever the representatives can talk. Okay? Mary, your guys' group. Savannah's our representative. Either or. One thing from their PowerPoint so far. Careful. Make sure that part of our procedures when we're listening to our group is we're quiet and we're looking at our person talking. Sorry.
Okay, so like I wrote down that like sugar provides food for the yeast to grow, and then salt like controls the growth or stops the growth.
Awesome. So Mary just said that sugar provides food for that yeast and salt controls it. Okay. Aaron's group.
We learned that you need warm water to wake it up.
You need warm water or warm liquid to wake up your yeast. Okay. Your guys' table. Christina. Make sure everyone's listening so we can hear Christina.
Well, put you on blast, bro.
What were...
Warm water to wake up.
Yes, warm water to wake it up. Wake up the yeast.
Slap it goes.
Can't do that. That's when you stir it. Maybe that's a little the mixing action of it.
Just like basically that you need like sugar to help the yeast grow, and that you need like a certain temperature for it.
Certain temperatures. So we're hearing the certain temperature and the sugar so far. Anyone have? How about? Can you guys tell me one thing about James? Our last slide about the 4 main process. What is one thing that you didn't know before?
That you had to mix it.
You had to
Knead it.
knead it. Okay. So what kneading really does after you're mixing all the ingredients together is that it's a secondary mixing. When you're kneading it, it's combining all of that flour and it's getting everything really, really, really mixed together, basically, when you're kneading the bread. Okay, I'm going to pick on one more. Go ahead. Abby.
Ours was that the water needed to be a certain temperature.
Okay, that was a big thing. Water has to be a certain temperature, like bath water. Okay, we're going to bring it back to our PowerPoint. Bring it on back, guys. So we're going to be looking at our PowerPoint. So all eyes up here. Great little listeners. Okay, I'll wait. Thank you. So our next step, after we've let our bread rise and set to where the dough needs to be, you're going to shape it. So when you shape bread, think about all the different shapes that bread can be. You can have sliced bread, rolls, baguettes, bagels, pretzels.
Can you explain to me what is
An English muffin, what it is?
just bread?
So,
It tastes like bread.
Yeah, it does.
so an English muffin, I want everybody's attention, Drew,
It's okay.
or Harrison, sorry. Sourdough, how it has that sour taste, there's a certain ingredient in there that makes it sour.
Malic acid.
A little bit of vinegar, and there's a little more salt in the recipe. But every different type of bread, like if you have just like a yeast roll, it's going to be a certain type of recipe. But when you have like a sour or a rye or wheat, you're going to be adding different ingredients. Yes? Carbon dioxide. So, getting back to yeast and how it grows. I'll wait, guys. Bring it back. The red on there says carbon dioxide. And as yeast grows, it creates carbon dioxide. And carbon dioxide is basically, it's air bubbles that are creating a chemical reaction before we start mixing it in with our flour. In this first picture, this would be our dehydrated yeast. We add that liquid, that is our yeast multiplying. And you'll see when we mix up our yeast, sugar, and water that after about 5-10 minutes, it will create these little bubbles. It's almost like it foams. And those are the carbon dioxide bubbles that are created. So how do we know that our bread is risen enough? The biggest part is you have to have time. So in our class, we will not have enough time for us to mix it all together and have it rise. So we're going to have a 2-part lab. Similar to last week's that we had a 2-part lab with the cake pops, we are going to mix it together, let it rise, and then we are going to put it in the refrigerator. And then when we come back the next day, we'll let it rise a little bit more at room temperature, and I'll probably pull them out the class period before your guys's. And then we can put it, after we shape the dough, we can put it in the oven. And the recipe I have is actually a really, really quick recipe that you only have to bake it for about 15 minutes. So that you'll be able to enjoy homemade, piping hot bread with either, we're probably going to do just a little bit of butter on the top.
Harrison can flip his hair.
He does. Hey, Harrison, you want to go wash your hands? I know. That whole hair flipping thing.
No, it's because my hair was all parted, so I don't.
Yeah. We gotta wash our hands once we flip our hair. No deal. Okay. Second part. Come back, guys. Come back. Come back. Drew. Drew.
No, we ain't coming back from this one.
Second part. To test if your bread has risen enough, you can poke your fingers in the bread. And if the 2 holes stay there, then it's risen enough. And that's what I do at home. I usually poke the bread, and if it kind of stays there, the hole, then it's perfect enough.
But if they close in, what happens?
It's not, it hasn't rose enough.
Because it's rising and closing.
Basically what the rising does is it's closing those air pockets that you created when you were kneading and from that yeast. And you'll still have those porous areas too. I am going to have you guys one more time. I want you to, as a group, I want you guys to tell each other your favorite styles of bread. So might it be French rolls, little rolls or ciabatta bread, English muffin.
Donuts are bread.
Donuts is a fried bread. Bagels.
Are we ever gonna do that fried bread?
We can. We'll do like little ones. They won't be like donuts, but we can like elephant ears. Timing.